Alright guys, M-Tech Guy here. So, you've just bought yourself an E60, eh? Nice luxury saloon, well put together with that German build quality. Rides nice, goes well, but you might be finding that it's squeaking and creaking and rattling inside when you're heading down the street like an old pirate ship, or sounds like a haunted house. Now that's no good, it's enough to do your head in. But otherwise, they are a lovely car, but it's enough to drive anyone nuts with all them little noises going on inside the cab. So today, we're going to take a look at the most common causes of them noises and what to do about them. Alright, so the first thing that we've got to understand is most of these interior components are made up of different types of plastics. Now I'm sitting in my M5 today and it's 16 years old, and over time these plastics can become hard, they can become brittle, they lose their pliability, and they'll have been through so many heat cycles over the years, just with the ambient temperatures, with the weather. Through the winters, the summers, it's going to expand, contract. Now you might find that in the winter time your dashboard creaks more because it'll have contracted, and in the summertime or when it's nice and hot out it'll expand and it should quieten down. But other times it will expand and then it'll cause it to rub on the other components and it can cause a bit of noise. And you know, it's acceptable that a car over 10 years it is going to have little squeaks and rattles because it's been moving around that much. So today we're going to take a look at some of the most common causes. There's many causes, but we'll look at the most common with these E60s. Alright, so as far as squeaks are concerned, we'll start off by focusing just on the dashboard here, because that's where most of them will come from, and it's mainly from these vents that are sitting in the dash. Now there are a few of them, and they're made up of a different type of plastic to the dashboard itself, and what can happen over time is they can become sort of a little bit dislodged and they can move about and squeak and creak. So a solution for that, you can either remove the vents, replace them with brand new ones, or you can pull them out, put a little bit of felt tape around the edges of them, pop them back in. That should remedy them. But yeah, it's super common with these E60s, especially the ones in the far corner there, right in front of the windshield, the windscreen. They're the worst. Super common, but not a big deal to sort them out, to quieten them down. Now then, other than them very common squeaks that you'll get from the dashboard on these E60s, you might be experiencing some small rattles or very small vibrations. Super annoying. So one of the most common places where the vibration will come from is the indicator stalk. And these buttons on the indicator stalk, especially the BC button, they can work themselves loose over time and then it'll just vibrate or rattle. It's enough to drive you crazy. And if you can't stand it anymore, the main way to fix that is just to fit a new indicator stalk. Go buy yourselves a brand new one, stick it in there, should be all good to go. Now another cause for them very small vibrations and rattles, especially from your steering column area here, is the key. Now I've got a very early M5 here, it's 2005, and this has a proper key, the old diamond key. The later models came with the small box with the silver buttons, you know, the one that you just push straight into the steering column there, and then it has a start button. This is an early type, so like I say, it doesn't have that. We've got the proper key with this one. Now if you do have the later type with the little key box, it's normally them silver buttons, just like the buttons on the indicator stalk. They will work loose over time and they can vibrate. So while that key's sitting in your steering column, it'll just be vibrating and rattling a little bit if them buttons have worked loose. And the remedy for that is to head out and go and buy a new key. You can still pick them up from the dealer and you can buy them specific to the VIN number of your car, so it's not a big deal, but they're not cheap. Over in New Zealand here they're about $400 or $500, so it depends whether you can live with that noise or not. Now as well as the indicator stalk and your late model key fob with them silver buttons, another area that can start rattling and vibrating is the actual buttons on the steering wheel itself. Exactly the same thing, and the remedy for that, you can actually buy a new switch panel here, get that replaced. Of course it's going to cost you money again, so you need to weigh up whether you can live with that noise or whether it's you driving you absolutely insane that you just want everything 100% perfect inside the cab. It's up to you. Alright, so the next annoyance we'll talk about is the squeaks and creaks you can get from the door area there, front and rear, and also you can experience a little bit of wind noise from the same area with these cars. Now this mainly comes from the seal that goes up and over the edge of the door like that, not the one that's fitted to the door frame, but the door itself. Now in the early days of the production run of these E60s, they used a different type of material. Obviously it's a rubber seal with a flocked material. Now they updated that flocked material on the later models because they had a lot of complaints with squeaks and creaks, especially where the flock material sits against the edge of the door frame there on the sheet metal. It did make a bit of noise, and if you've seen one of my previous videos, I did update the one on my rear left door there. That was driving me nuts, and it silenced it completely with the new door seal. So if you do hear any creaking and squeaking from your doors, especially at the back there, the rears always seem to be worse, or if you're getting a bit of wind noise, it is worth getting a new seal and chucking it in there. Should resolve that issue. And while we're on the subject of wind noise, if you do have them daft wind deflectors or monsoon guards, whatever they call them, that are stuck to the outside of your door frames there, you need to get them out of there. And I can't understand why anyone would want to stick a piece of tat like that on a BMW. I had them on my X5 when I first got the car, and I had to drive a long distance when I first bought it, about 1,000 kilometers. There was no AC in the vehicle at the time because it was broken, so I had the windows down a lot of the time, and then wind deflectors just caused so much wind noise, it was insane. Windows down, windows up, it sounded awful. So that was one of the first jobs I did on that X5. I got them out of there. So if you do have them on your car and you are experiencing a lot of wind noise, that'll be the cause of it. Alright, so if we take a look in the engine bay here, now even though we're not sitting inside the car right now, one of the very common areas that you can get a lot of vibration is from this strut brace. You've got two bars there and they're bolted at both ends. Now what can happen over time, the bolts over at the bulkhead there, they can start to work loose, and when they do, this bar will start to vibrate, and that'll transmit through your dashboard into the interior, and it can be very hard to diagnose, but this is a very common problem with these cars. Now if you think you have got this problem, it's just a case of grabbing hold of that bar, giving a good shake. If it does feel a little bit loose, then it's worth just popping the plastic covers off, take a look at the bolts, pull them out and put a little bit of blue Loctite on them, screw them back in, and that way they shouldn't vibrate loose again. Like I say, it is very, very common with these, so you either need to go in regularly and tighten them up, or use a little bit of blue Loctite. It'll be easy to remove if you do have to in the future. So very annoying vibration, but very easy to fix. Now to finish off with, we'll take a look at the sunroof. Now if you are experiencing wind noise from this area, it's obviously the weather seal that's round the edge. Now again, they did update this later on. The first ones, they were prone to shrinking slightly, so it can cause water leaks, but especially wind noise. So if you are getting a lot of wind noise, you need to get that old seal out of there and fit one of the new style ones. And then other than wind noise, one of the most common problems on these E60s is a clonking noise from the sunroof area. Now I've done a previous video on this before, go check it out if you are experiencing that, but 9 times out of 10 it's the little metal wind deflector that sits on the front edge there. What it does as you're going down the road, it bounces and it moves and it hits the top of the glass, this section, and it just clonks and clonks, and it's enough to drive you insane. It's so annoying. Alright guys, so there we have it. So that's certainly not a fully comprehensive list of all the squeaks, creaks, rattles and knocks you may experience with your E60, but they're the most common, and most of them can be fixed relatively easy. Some of them are a bit more expensive than others, but there's no reason why you should be heading down the road with all that noise in the interior of a cab driving you nuts. For the most part, it can be sorted out and it's not a big deal. Alright guys, if you found the video interesting or useful, don't forget to give it a like, and make sure you go and check out the rest of my YouTube channel for more E60 DIY content. I'm MTech Guy. Thanks a lot for watching.